What's up, guys? My name is Kyle, and this is my 2004 Jeep TJ. Well, I guess what's left of it. So for a really long time now, I've been wanting to take a crack at this YouTube thing. I've tried in the past. I'm really good about posting like once every 2 years or so, if that, if you go back on the channel. And honestly, I don't know why. I guess I just don't commit to it. I've always have fun doing the videos. I hate being on camera, so I'm trying to get around that, but you know, I'm gonna do the best I can. And I figured if I'm gonna take a real shot at doing YouTube somewhat consistently, that the best place to start is with what I have. So I wanted to just kind of give a real quick run around of what my Jeep is and kind of where it came from, and well, I guess this is kind of where we're gonna start. All right, enough of that, back to the Jeep. So just got back from King of the Hammers, and I figured the best time to show a rock crawler is straight off the trailer from King of the Hammers. So it's still dirty, it's still beat, I'm still aired down, there's still trash in my sacket thing in the back. It's filthy, but that's what a rock crawler is, so I figured that's a cool way to show it, and that's probably how it should be shown. So anyways, let's get into it. So this Jeep means a lot to me because this was my dad's Jeep before it was mine. I actually grew up in the backseat of this Jeep. Going back as far as I can remember, my family's always had an RV, and with that, we've always had a Jeep to flat tow behind it. So before this Jeep, we had a like 97 or 98 four-banger manual TJ, and my dad upgraded to this after a couple years, and this is what I grew up in. The first time I drove was in this Jeep. First time in the sand dunes was in this Jeep. All over Death Valley and as much as we can. We thought we were into like some hardcore rock crawling back then, but that was not even involving disconnecting the sway bars, which I think is funny. It was really just fire roads. But with that, that's why this Jeep is so important to me. It's got a lot of history of our family in it, and I would hate to see it go anywhere. So it obviously will never leave my hands. So when I turned 15, I had bought the Jeep off of my dad, but surprise to me, the Jeep was no longer silver like it was. It is now orange, which is my favorite color. So he actually had one of his buddies who can paint the Jeep as a surprise to me. And obviously, when you first look at it, that's kind of the first thing that stands out to people, and that's honestly my favorite part of the Jeep. So if you look at it now, it is Crush Orange, which is a Jeep color code, so it's still in the Jeep family. It still looks like a Jeep, it's just not a TJ color. I think this color was offered like 2012-ish era. It's like right in the middle of the JK lifespan. But yeah, it was a full body off paint job. I'll see if I can find some pictures and drop them in here. Which means that it is orange on the firewall. It is orange behind the dash. The door jambs, even if you were to flip the Jeep upside down and look at the full underbelly of the Jeep, it is orange. So it is as factory as you can get to a Crush Orange TJ, which, like I said, is probably my favorite part because it looks really cool. So moving on from that, as you can see, it is very heavily modified and not much of it really is Jeep anymore. Pretty much the body, the dash, and the drivetrain, as well as maybe half of the frame is still Jeep. The rest of it is really no longer Jeep. So let's get into it. I have always wanted a one-ton Jeep. I never thought I was going to be here when I originally got the Jeep. I had always had intentions of putting a rooftop tent on it, running my massive 33-inch tires, and just overlanding, you know, hanging out with friends, maybe hitting some fire roads here and there, and that was the extent of what this Jeep was supposed to be, which, as you can tell, is still how it sits now. So like I said, I've always liked the one-ton Jeeps, could never afford to just drop the Jeep off with a shop and have it done. So I thought the next step to do, with no fabrication experience, is to cut my Jeep in half and just figure it out. Up front is a 1999 to 2004 Super Duty 60 front end out of an F250 350. In the rear is a corporate 14 bolt. When I bought these axles, the front was completely stock, untouched, rusty, still had the blocks on it for the leaf springs. And in the rear, like I said, a corporate 14 bolt. That one was kind of a hidden gem. It already came with a ginormous truss on it, which looks cool, but is ginormous. Held on with some very funky welds, but it's held so far, so why change them? It also already had a mini shave done to it, which is really cool because that's not something I was looking forward to doing at all. It was already converted to disc brakes, and it already had a pinion, like lower pinion guard on it to help protect the pinion. So it had a lot of cool goodies in it, and I want to say I bought the front and rear axle for like $1,500, but like I said, there was already a ton of work and money thrown into the rear end, so I thought I kind of stole these. Anyways, inside the diffs, we have ARB lockers. Love it or hate it, they work good. They're just very problematic. I do wish I had gone to E-lockers, but I think at this point they're already in there. I have Yukon 538 gears. I have Yukon chromoly's front and rear. The front, these normally come with a 30 spline shaft. I don't remember if it's inner and outer, or if it's just a 30 spline outer. Anyway, it's now a 35 spline inner and outer with bigger Yukon U-joints in the shaft. And to accommodate that, the wheel bearings or the unit bearings are like remachined for a bigger spline count, so it's a true 35 spline outer as well. Just trying to make this axle as strong as I can. I wanted to do it once and hopefully not break it. Obviously it's an axle shaft it can break, but hopefully not anytime soon. The rear is still a 30 spline. To jump to a 35 spline was like extremely expensive. Plus that's a huge rear axle as it is, and I think that 30 spline is actually bigger in diameter than most 30 spline shafts are, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. The front now has a Barnes low profile Super Duty 60 truss on it, which was important to me because it gave me a clean flat spot to mount all of my links, my bump stops, and my coilovers to, as well as it being low profile to help make sure I clear the radiator, engine, and whatever else gets in the way. Otherwise, as far as the knuckles go, it has just the Artec like extended knuckle kit that you weld on to the cast knuckles, and it kind of pushes your steering forward and allows you to run big Heims. Other than that, it's pretty much been left alone. I don't have like reed knuckles or anything like that. I don't have anything crazy like RCVs. They're just junkyard axles that I did ball out and put chromoly's in, but otherwise it's a pretty standard, straightforward 1-ton kit. As far as my steering goes, it is all custom, and this was the hardest part of the build by far. So I wanted to stretch the rear as much as I could go without doing a complete comp cut. As you see in a minute, it's got like a mini comp cut kind of to it because I wanted to retain the Jeep look. Up front, I wanted to push the front as far forward as I can without going full hydro. I still like driving this on the road, although I don't a whole lot. I do like to have that option. And everybody I've talked to that has full hydro rigs hates driving their rig on the road. I guess it just gets super floaty at higher RPMs, and I didn't want to deal with that. So I wanted to keep the mechanical steering box. So that made it very, very hard to push the front axle forward and retain all mechanical connections with the steering box. So how I did that is Armbruster Industries, I think they're in Nevada somewhere, makes this kit, and it cuts the core support like tube that goes between the frame rails out, allows you to countersink your winch between the frame rails, which is pretty cool because it keeps your winch super low and allows airflow to still get to your grill. It looks super funky because it's offset, but that allows you to also run your steering box inside the frame rails, but it allows you to rotate it forward and up, which also corrects your pitman arm geometry and allows you to push the front axle, give or take like 3 or 4 inches forward. The geometry with the factory pitman arm is like really, really close. So from there, it's got a custom tie rod, drag link, and track bar. It's all stuff that I made using builder parts from Barnes 4-wheel drive, which is pretty much how this entire Jeep was built. The tie rod is a 2-inch DOM quarter wall, I believe, tube. It's the 3rd one I've made, and I thought it was going to be the final one that I would have to make. And I was humbled real quick on my second trip out when I completely bananaed it. So I'm gonna leave it for the time being because it still works, and until it breaks or until I have some extra money laying around, I'll just leave it and then maybe one day go aluminum. Tie rod, track bar, nothing fancy there. It's just just kind of generic, straightforward builder kit stuff. Back to the pitman arm though. Once I had everything mocked up, cycled, knew it was all going to work, I had bought another pitman arm, stripped it apart, drew up some plates on AutoCAD, and made a double shear mount for it. So it's not only like a in a better location than where it was, but it's all double shear now, so it should be really, really, really strong. And I just had a fear from that after seeing a couple people break their pitman arms, which kind of makes sense when you have a lot of leverage from big tires and stuff. So again, kind of overkill on a lot of stuff probably, but I wanted to do it once. As far as links go, it is all Barnes builder kit stuff as well. The front is a 3-link with the upper arm on the passenger side. I did that to help clear the drive shaft that's on the driver's side. It's really the only reason why I did that. The rear is a 4-link with an upper triangulation, and that all just kind of comes down to packaging. I mean, it worked really easy, pretty straightforward. On that note of suspension, it also has King 2.5 by 14 coilovers with remote reservoirs front and rear, and King 2.0 by 2 air bumps front and rear to help make sure that when I do stupid stuff, I don't break stuff. And yeah, so far so good. I'm still in like that weird trial stage of, okay, tweak this, tweak that, change this spring, and I'm really close. And once I'm happy with it, then I'll go have it professionally shock tuned and I can then pretend to be a race car. But that's kind of where I'm at with suspension. I mean, it's doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on, but it was a lot of packaging nightmare that we had to work around, but it works really good. As far as the body goes, I have Poison Spider Highlines up front. I still think these are like the coolest fenders ever. I hear Poison Spider's coming back now, which I'm super stoked for because I loved their stuff and it sucked to see them go away. So super excited to see them come back. As you'll see, I have kind of a lot of Poison Spider in this, but Poison Spider Highline fenders, they are steel. I wanted to keep them steel, so if I got into rocks, it would help protect the hood and the cowl and the windshield, everything else, just it's armor. To help with cooling, I have a Poison Spider hood louver, and in the rear is Genrite aluminum corner armors that came as blanks that I cut my own wheel arch for. Again, you'll see in a second here that I wanted to keep kind of the Jeep look, so it's a mini comp cut. For rock sliders, they are moto built, they are steel. Being that you hit the sliders a lot, I didn't want to do aluminum or anything like that. Plus, with the added wheelbase and me trying to keep the factory Jeep look, I had to extend them. So steel was a lot easier for that. So I actually extended them like, I don't know, a couple inches to kind of match it and keep that factory Jeep look. For wheels and tires, I have 40-inch BFG KR2s. These are the go-to in SoCal. I know they're not supposed to be very great in the rain, the mud, or the snow, but out here it's super, super dry conditions. You know, we wheel in Big Bear, we wheel in Johnson Valley, we shoot out the Sand Hollow, we go to Moab. Although those aren't here, those are kind of our go-to spots. Even Calico. Those are all very, very dry with high traction areas. And with that, these tires do fantastic. Also, being that we're from SoCal, they're very easy to come by and they're very cheap because we have a lot of desert racing out here. These are all takeoffs and you're able to find them for like $100, $200 a piece. So I don't know how you find 40-inch sticky race tires for, you know, let's call it $200, even $250 a piece. It just isn't possible. So a lot of my buddies run them. You'll see a lot of the bigger rigs out here run them, and that's, for the most part, that's the reason why. For wheels, I have Dirty Life Roadkill beadlocks. They are true beadlocks, obviously. I love them. They're super unique looking. They're different. I don't see a lot of rigs with them, and of course, I had to powder coat them orange in the center with the black ring to kind of tie back into the Jeep. Under the hood is the mighty 4-liter inline 6. Sounds rowdy, plenty of torque, horribly reliable, but tremendously underpowered. And honestly, the only reason it's still in there is because it's reliable. I mean, I would love to put an LS in it. Aside from that being expensive, it's just the fact that this motor is so reliable. It's so easy and so cheap to get parts for. And it fits in there well. It's already in there. The Jeep communicates with it. It's a Jeep motor. So I have a really hard time pulling something out that works so well. Yeah, it sucks on the freeway, but it works really well for everything else I do. Down the road, if this motor does ever actually blow up on me, I would like to put a stroker in it. You could do like a 4.6 or a 4.7 just to give me, I think it's like an extra 100 horsepower, which is like a 50%, well, more than that. It's like a 60% gain, 70% gain in horsepower in these. And I would love to go that route because it will still fit right in. I don't need to change my towers. I don't need to change motor mounts, nothing like that. And it'll still communicate with the Jeep perfect. So it's kind of a drop-in way to gain a ton of horsepower. So till then, it's the mighty 4-liter. But under the hood currently, there's not a whole lot done. It's got the bigger BBK throttle body. It's got a cold air intake that runs through the cowl. This is super sweet because it actually grabs cold air. Instead of grabbing cold air from like right next to your headers, it actually pulls cold air from the cowl, and it's a lot cleaner in there as well. So I have the cold air intake running through the cowl with a sock on it to help keep some of the dust and any water that gets in there as well out. It's also got a set of Banks headers. I did this just because the Jeep was apart, and I was like, hey, why it's apart? You know, let me put headers in it. It'll sound cool. When I pulled the factory ones out, they were actually cracked in like 4 spots. Told my buddy about it. He pulled his out. They were also cracked in like 2 or 3 spots. Posted it on Instagram, and like 4 other people told me that they had the same incident. So apparently it's really common for these manifolds to crack. So now it's on headers. I don't know if I felt a whole lot of power gain from that. Maybe a little bit in the top end. It does sound really cool. But really, it was just a preventative, you know, hey, I'm here. Let's put something bulletproof in here. As you can see, it's still a little bit of a mess under here. I still have to mount the ECU so it's not just zip tied to the shock towers. And there's a couple other things I still have to mount and route a little bit cleaner. It's been done for some time now, but I have a really hard time finding time to do those tiny little intricate projects like that. So that's kind of in that next stage I was telling you about. We'll get to later. That's kind of in that next stage of what this Jeep is going to be tidying up those tiny little things. As far as out back, it has a Motobilt back half kit. This is actually where we started the project. So once we stripped the Jeep down, there was no parts left hanging on it. The first thing we did was cut the frame in half, and it's cut right behind the driver's seat. And everything from there back is Motobilt frame rails. I at first wasn't sure if this was a great idea or not, but I can honestly say that if you're looking into doing a 1-ton build or anything with custom suspension on your TJ, just do the back half kit. It creates so much room for activities, and it eliminates so much headache by just giving you a clean slate. It gets rid of that stupid arched frame that the TJs have. It's a little bit narrower. It's a lot higher. It gives you a smooth surface and flat surface to weld all your coilover towers to, or your air bumps or limit straps or whatever else you have, as well as also gaining like 4 or 5 inches of ground clearance in the rear and sucking the bumper into the body, so you have insane departure angle in the back. It's just all around like one of the best and easiest single items you can put on your Jeep that makes a massive difference when building something crazy. We have the Genrite aluminum quarter armor with the mini comp cut to still kind of retain the full factory fender look that the Jeeps have. Factory tailgate, the only thing I changed on it was I converted it with some gate hinges I found at Lowe's and a singular CJ style steel tailgate cable, and a wheel stud that I shaved down and welded to the mini tubs that allows this to latch. And that converted this into like a CJ style drop down tailgate. Gives me plenty of room to make sandwiches and work on any broken parts. Inside are all my tools. These are all pack outs from Milwaukee, and these are cool because my brother and I make these sweet brackets. We're able to bolt them straight to the body, and then this keeps all my tools inside from bouncing around and flying out and breaking and everything else in there. So it keeps everything locked down when we're mobbing across the lake bed. I do carry a full metric and standard set of tools so that anybody I come across on the trail that's broken, whether it's a Jeep, a Chevy, a Toyota, a Suzuki, I should have all your basic tools. So yeah, so far I've not really found anything I didn't need on the trail. I also have a full impact set as well as spare hardware, spare starter, spare fuses, relays, like 4 spare ignition switches because I'm having an ignition issue right now, and a couple of spare like solenoids and stuff that the Jeep has that or sensors that it won't run on. So anything that can happen on the trail, I should be able to hopefully get it off the trail with the parts that I have. Behind all this is a 19-gallon aluminum fuel cell for Motobilt. That is a must in my eyes because it eliminates everything hanging underneath the Jeep. As you can see, it is a flat canvas underneath there. Gave me plenty of, not even plenty of room, gave me all the room in the world to fit that 14 bolt and the coilovers and links, with the only limitation being the Jeep body itself. Above all that is the Genrite aluminum half basket. I obviously don't have much of a trunk, so this is pretty much my entire trunk, half of it in which is taken up by a tow strap right now. So this really lets me run like a cooler and maybe a backpack for other odds and ends of stuff I might have. Over there, I had to turn off because it's way too bright to be filming back here with it on, is my Dirt Direct whip. These are sweet, quick release, and I've run a handful of whips on the market. This is hands down the best whip out there. Next to that, obviously fire extinguisher, straightforward, must have that. Chase light, I run green and amber, and this has running, brake, 2 flashing dust lights or chase lights that go between different sequences, and 2 solids. Over on the passenger side is my power tank. These guys are amazing to work with. They've been with me for probably 8 years now, 8.5 years now on this build, and they are fantastic people to work with. I've wheeled with these guys, all around just amazing human beings. And above that is my Rockford Fosgate Rockford Fosgate wakeboard speakers. And yeah, those are a must on the trail to be blasting my white girl pop or country music through, because I don't have much real estate to mount speakers to anymore, and those are somewhat waterproof, being that they're for a wake boat. So if they get caught in a little bit of rain or dust or anything like that, they should hold up just fine. Almost forgot, these are my Savvy half doors. They are awesome because they're aluminum and they're just skins, so they're super light, and they are also just a sheet of metal. So if I were to get into rocks, I could easily just cut a new skin for it and put it back in, and I don't need to really worry about damaging my very expensive factory half doors. So those are cool. I do wish I could run the soft uppers with it, so I'm going to look into doing like some adapter that I can make on top that maybe slides over so I can run a window if it's raining or anything. But for what they are, I love these doors. I think they're a really cool compromise. For safety, I have a poison spider cage that I've built off of. I've had this cage in here for a really long time. Knock on wood or aluminum. So far, I haven't had to use it. Come close a couple times, but haven't actually laid it on its side or upside down yet.
They're good. You're on the cage. Keep going.
But I still think this is the best looking bolt-in cage out there. Hopefully they bring it back, because I know a lot of TJ guys want this cage, but I absolutely love the way this cage looks. And this one's powder coated in a cool hammer tone or silver vein, whatever you call it. It's got like a nice texture, so if I do lay it into some rocks, it'll kind of hide scratches and stuff like that, as well as just being a really unique look. All right, going inside now. As you can see, I have a tube that braces the A pillar to the B pillar, as well as tubes that brace the B pillar to the C pillar that I've all welded in, as well as tubes that'll weld from the left side to the right side to brace it from twisting and also reinforce the coilovers, as well as a tube that ties the cage into the top of the coilover, as well as new harness bars that will fit with my seating position. My seats are now in a fixed position, so they don't slide. I got rid of the sliders. I'm about 6 foot, 6'1" or so, and my knees always touch the dash when I put buckets in it. So the seats are now bolted to the cage. I did this by creating an entire like subfloor cage section. So if you were to pop the seats out, the entire floor is covered in cage work as well. So the seats are physically bolted to the roll cage, which is way safer. and being that you're not bolted to a piece of sheet metal. And B, gives me a lot more legroom because I'm able to push the seat down like 2 inches and back like 3 inches. So as you can see, I'm able to keep my head super low in here and away from the roll cage. So if we do roll over, no matter how I move in here, I'm far enough away from the cage, as well as I have like 4 inches of legroom now in here, which is insane in a TJ with bucket seats when you're like 6 feet tall. So that was why this was important to me to hard mount the seats in here, because I now fit in my own Jeep. So on top of that, I also have in the back my cage that ties the C-pillar down to the frame where the frame is plated, with no bushings or anything in there. So the cage is physically not just bolted to the body, it's actually welded to the frame through sandwich plates. I do still need to do one for the B-pillar up here. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but there's a lot of extra tube work I've added to this cage to try and make it as safe and strong as possible. As well as, I almost forgot, the V in the windshield to keep the cage from caving in by your head. So hopefully I don't ever roll it, but if I do ever roll it, I'm really confident this cage is going to hold up because it was already a super strong cage to start with, and I've added like 200 pounds worth of metal to it, so it should be really, really strong. Oh, and there's also all these little gussets I've added in here as well to help add strength. For seats, I have Corbo, I think they're called Bajas. Another great company to work with. These guys are awesome. I had an issue with my first set of seats, and not only did they reach out to me and send me a whole new set of seats, but they also upgraded my seats to being vinyl, and they let me keep the old seats. So these guys are fantastic to work with. They've always been supportive, and just another great, fantastic company to work with. On that note, I come from a family that has been around Volkswagens for at least my entire life. So being that I'm a Volkswagen guy as well, I had to somehow tie that into the Jeep. And yeah, so I found Volkswagen GTD plaid material, which is like the GTI, but in Europe, I guess they have a diesel version of the GTI. And that comes with all gray plaid seats rather than the red plaid like we got in the US. So it has GTD Volkswagen plaid inserts into my Corba bucket seats, which I think is a cool touch. It's real subtle. You don't really notice it until you kind of get up on the Jeep and then realize that it's got some crazy looking plaid bucket seats in it. Up here, I have a GenRight steering wheel hub for the removable steering wheel. I know there's a million companies that make removable steering wheel hubs, but to me it was important to make sure you got like a real one. And if you're going to spend your money somewhere, maybe spend it on a part that connects your steering wheel to the Jeep. I've seen videos of like some cheap Chinese ones where people are like primarily in drift cars and they're turning a lot and stuff, and then the hub will snap and then they're just holding the steering wheel and it's not attached to the car and they're along for the ride. So to me, that was kind of an important part to, again, keep the steering wheel attached. Attached to that is my MPI wheel, and yeah, that's kind of it for there. Nothing too exciting on that end. For electrical management, I have the Switch Pro's 12 switch system. It is running a lot of stuff. It runs my front and rear lockers, it runs my whip, my rock lights, my chase light, it runs my heated seats. Yes, while I had the upholstery shop doing plaid inserts in my Corbo buckets, I did add heated seats, which best idea ever, because when you're cruising around in the desert and it's 20 degrees out and you don't have doors or a top, is really nice having heated bucket seats. Keeps you nice and toasty. On top of that, it also runs, like I said, all my lighting, and there's 2 extra switches, which I think is going to go towards having a working horn, which I'm excited for, and maybe some bumper lights or something. I wanted to retain as much of the factory dash as I could. I like when you have builds that are super crazy and kind of race car buggy looking, but then you look inside and it still looks like the actual car. Again, I love this Jeep. I love the look of a TJ. I wanted it to still look, feel, and drive like a TJ. On that note, it is mostly all entirely a stock dash, with the exception of on the passenger side where my radio and my intercom is mounted. That is going to change. I have a cool idea to incorporate that into a piece of the dash to make it all look factory and get rid of the sheet metal plate. On that note, over there is my 80-watt Yaesu ham radio that runs to a giant whip antenna up on the roof. And I have a Rugged Radios intercom that runs through the Alpha Base headsets. That is all Bluetooth, so it can go to your music when you're cruising down the freeway. And it also links to my ham radio with push-to-talks on the dash. So I'm able to, if we're going down the freeway at 12 miles an hour, I'm able to talk to other cars and not blow my eardrums out, because it is very, very loud on the freeway. One, because the wind noise, also the tire noise, and then also the exhaust is pretty loud on it. So on the trail, it's not so loud that you have to wear it, so I don't wear them on the trail. But on the freeway, if it's more than like a 15-20 minute drive, your ears are pounding afterwards. So like if I'm driving on the freeway anywhere, I've always got the headsets on. Other than that, the full tub is bed lined, which was important to me. Keeps your feet from sliding, keeps it clean in there, in the sense that I can just pull a drain plug and kind of hose it out, and I don't have to worry about the carpet getting nasty and leaking or getting moldy or mildewy. And I've also got mini tubs in the rear. So this was quite the undertaking, because I did this when the frame was out of the Jeep as well. So at one point, the only thing that was attached to the Jeep was like 3 inches of sheet metal in the rear, which was kind of wild looking. But I do have tubs in the back as well to give me extra room for the coilovers. Again, get rid of that weird hump that they have where the emissions used to sit in the pocket back there. And it raises the tub like 3 inches or something too. So it gave me a lot of room to fit everything else, as well as, again, it being a flat, square piece of sheet metal for me to mount everything else to. And arguably the most important part of having a rock crawler in Southern California is working air conditioning. I do still have working air conditioning. No, it'll never go anywhere. I'm a big baby when it comes to being over 100 degrees out here. I like wheeling even in the summer, so I'm keeping my air conditioning. I also forgot to mention that up front is a Warren 10,000 pound winch and a factor 55, keeping us safe with enclosed recovering, and just keeping us back on the trail for when we get stuck or break down. I appreciate you guys watching. This is my TJ, and I know this is strung out. I'm not very good at this videoing thing, and I hope you guys hang in there, and I hope I get a little bit better at it and that I can make something that's slightly entertaining to watch. I promise I'm gonna try my best to be better at being on camera, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm sure I missed some stuff, so you can drop them in the comments. If not, this is my Instagram. Feel free to shoot me a DM and I'll answer any questions you have. Shoot you any pictures if there's anything particular you want to see close up on the Jeep, and I'm happy to help however I can. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.